Quite the trooper. Day before your last
That's
day,
right.
you're still here at 6 o'clock.
I know. Because she made the
On the time off, I'm gonna forward you some therapists.
All right, we are being recorded and we are live. I gotta, now, we'll go look for an hour.
Thank you so much. Okay. This is the screening committee for the town manager replacing. And I'm calling the meeting to order at 6:02 maybe. And the first thing on the agenda was review and approve minutes. Did I send minutes? I didn't see that. Okay, well, I know I've written, so I will send it. But I also know that the select board is months behind, so I don't feel bad. They're only about a month behind.
Wow. Even at this meeting, we're gonna talk about this later.
Just having a little fun. Okay, so any comments from the committee members before we start the other parts? Anything anybody's mind?
I just, I'm in periodic contact with Adam Bernie because we get along, and he happened to pass on to me that he has found Community Paradigm to be an excellent recruiting agency.
Oh, good.
I just wanted to get that out there.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, we're gonna talk to them. And I invited them to come whenever they get here. But they're on the agenda at 6:30. Oh, they're here? Oh, good. And who are you?
I'm John Petron and Bernie Lynch is with me.
Okay, nice to meet you guys.
Over there.
Okay. Too bad that everybody's got their, I got my back to everybody. But anyways, so no other public
So
comment.
I will say that he did hire an interim town manager.
Yes.
So that he started yesterday, did he sign today?
That's circulating.
Circulating the contract, so he's doing it on Goodwill right now. It was just finalized, so once we get all the signatures on.
Okay.
I think you have a public comment behind you.
Public comment. Well, we didn't schedule public comment.
Oh,
We scheduled committee member comment, but you know what? What the heck? I'll put a comment. Ronnie, what would you like to say?
Ron
Come.
Delicio,
Come up here with somebody to see what they want to say.
Ron Delicio, 181 Reservoir Road. I actually wanted to question the spending of $15,000 for a recruiting firm, sorry. I just feel that who in their right mind is going to take a job where our last town manager didn't have an evaluation this year, as it was stated, as far as I know, in the contract that was supposed to occur. And then to have all this other nonsense, have one member of the board take it upon themselves to disrupt the job that she was trying to do. And with the limited field of town managers available, I don't see why it would be necessary to spend $15,000. That's just my public comment.
Thank you. Okay. As far as anybody else,
Yeah, somebody
Go
with a
ahead.
hand raised.
all right, let's recognize Dave Passios.
Good evening, gentlemen and town manager, and anybody else that happens to be there. Hey, please correct me because sometimes my computers don't bring up the proper document, but please check your agenda. I believe it states that you are at the Bellotta Room.
Say again, Dave.
I believe your agenda states that you should be at the Bellotta Room.
We are.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're down at the conference table then.
It's all right. I mean, I can see Joe Bellotta over my shoulder, so.
Yeah, okay, I apologize. That angle I haven't seen in years.
It's all right.
I'll
Anything
carry
else?
on. No, I'm good for right now.
Thank you very much. Okay. As far as like my report, I spoken to Heather about coming tonight. And she was gracious enough to say she would do it even on the last night. I do appreciate that. And I had asked Heather what would need to be done with soliciting bids or not soliciting bids, and what did we have hiring a firm if we decided to hire a firm. And she responded to me that because of the dollars amounts, and you can share this more, Heather, when your time comes, but that we have to solicit 3 bids. And just so the committee knows, so I immediately reached out to Julie and asked her to do that. Julie said, okay at first, but she would need to put together the ad that she'd have to put up for the solicitation. And we thought about just using the one that we've used in the past, one that we had used when. And then she got back to me the next day and said, you know, I just don't have time to write it enough, change it enough. And I'm going on vacation the following day, I think it was. So that part of the process of us considering hiring a recruitment firm, not that we made a commitment, but considering it is going to be delayed. So she'll be back on Monday and she'll get to it as quickly as she can, I hope. So we'll continue to keep that process rolling. So those are my updates. So then I just want to thank you for coming up last night. And we're going to keep it brief so we don't keep you here all night. But anyways, thank you very much. And I thought I'd just open it up, have you tell us what you think we should be focusing on in the new town manager or next time.
I'll go back for a second to the bid solicitation.
thanks.
Lily does have a template scope for putting this up to bid. So this is 3 quotes, and then working with her.
Yep.
And it's just putting significant requirements as well as just go with the lowest responsible.
Okay.
So, sure, it's, town is going to receive bids for the services that they're actually seeking.
For me to follow up on that, when do you think she can do it? Not that you commit her to do it, but when do you think she can do it, and how long do you have to wait? Let's assume it's Monday or Tuesday that she's able to do it. Is it a week, 2 weeks, what's that time?
It will need to get posted in a few different locations for advertising requirements, but the scope just needs to be sent out to 3 companies that traditionally do that type of work. And it's advertised for 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
After it's
Okay.
posted.
What is the minimum for business?
Yeah. If we, the selectmen approved up to 15,000 at the meeting, so not that it's necessarily for spending 15.
Not that this is a minimum, but it's concerned with when did we start doing this? A month ago?
Yeah, I know.
So
Paint.
everything's tick-tock, and here we're gonna be now with 2 weeks added to that, it's not gonna be done till next week.
Yeah.
So sometime at the end of August, we're gonna actually have some
I
advertised.
know. Painful. Well, and I will tell you, I should jump all over you, I apologize. That was another part of my update, is I sent to Community Paradigm what we had finished as our draft that Chris Menard had drawn up. Make a comment on that when they get up here. Okay, sorry.
So I think the purpose of me coming tonight was to what you should be
Shed great
looking-
light on it.
looking for in your next
Yeah.
town manager. I think everyone at the table knows some qualities and experience levels that you'd be looking for. I think from my lens, you know, someone that has a strong financial background, is financially sound, but there are a lot of future expenses that are very complicated. That and we have a finance director.
Yeah.
And it's still learning the role, so strong financial background. Also from traits, I would say someone that's built consensus on groups.
Yep.
And areas that where there may be divisions, bridge those. So, speaking to level of questions, like providing concrete examples of how in their experience, how they've been able to bring two different groups to the table and come to a sense of issues.
When we interviewed you, Heather, we asked each one of the applicants to come up with an economic plan or something during the interview process. You think we
Want to
should do
speak to
something?
my interview process when I interviewed you?
Well, I'm
I
just
remember
wondering
it
what you-
very clearly.
I hope I,
Even sitting
hope
at
I,
that table at Ritter, I remember everyone, where they were
Oh,
sitting.
man. I hope I behaved.
The part of the process that I liked in this was, really, I think it was in between the screening committee and the finalists, was meeting with the department heads.
Yeah.
I thought that was a valuable piece of process for me as an applicant, to meet with them, to hear what their concerns were, what they were facing. Gave me a lot more insight. Also, the two interviews that were held, one was a question and answer session. It was a written component
Yeah.
part of the process, as well as presentation. So,
Yeah.
yes, the power
Yeah,
presentation on economic development.
Yep.
It was valuable from my perspective. Learned more, even more, because I typically do that type of research going into
Yeah.
that process, but the community was facing, maybe come at it from a different perspective. May not discuss or
so you think that's helpful, this kind of a committee to do something like that, put them to task?
I'm not gonna speak for the select board, but it was probably helpful for them to see presentation style, your demeanor, how you approach your questions, your type of responses. Questions was from interesting your mentor was. Those are all telling questions about people's personality. Not just your traditional questions about your experience and telling about certain examples of your budgeting style.
So that, remember the department heads after the screening committee, then, right? So we'd already passed you with a couple of other people. That were the department heads before you go with the select board.
Yes.
I'd forgotten that part.
There were two sessions. From the select.
Okay.
With this.
I,
One
Good.
interview, screening.
Yeah, just one of them.
as somebody who's hired a number of people over the years, in different companies as different hiring practices, I've always shied away from the, here's a project to go work on and come back with something. Number one, because candidate doesn't work for me. And I feel as if, oftentimes it might be an interesting lens into a thought process or a presentation style, but it's very difficult to get a level of knowledge or expertise that's going to really reflect deep analysis, at least in my experience and in my field. I'm curious to your thoughts specifically to your field and how appropriate, how common it is, those kinds of things. You had indicated that you found some
Doing a
value in it.
presentation?
Yeah, or really it's doing the
I would say
work and
it's
the preparation for the
atypical.
presentation. Yeah.
The process, it's usually doesn't involve a presentation or a writing sample. Typically, in the community paradigm.
We'll ask them
Can
to, I'm
speak
sure.
to that.
Ask them the same
More than I
question.
can. But I would say, but I found value in it. being prepared.
As somebody who's been part of the screening committee and part of the select board, I think those two components, however typical, are very important with the things that we're doing. That it's not the project that's important, it's the presentation and the preparation to do the presentation that's important to me. And getting some a sample of somebody's writing skill.
I agree with the writing
really
stuff.
important.
Yeah.
So I thought they were important. It's sort of glad to hear that somebody who's with us for 7.5 years thought so too.
I think Kerry suggested it. When we did our exit.
No, we did it before that.
We did?
Yeah. We did it with Terry. We've done it all along.
Yeah.
We did it from at least from the time that Dan Hughes.
Okay. All right,
At least the writing set.
right.
You know, having them answer questions, prepared questions, right?
Okay, free-flowing conversation. Matthew, whatever you have to say, or Peter.
No, I didn't have much to contribute just because I've made my career writing and speaking, so that's literally in my professional life always been a component of interviews, but for atypical reasons, because it's private sector different.
I think I think to just echo something that Thomas said, you'll get a lot from the people who like very few people are going to come in and like out of the blue, like their resume is going to show the kind of skills. I want to ask them about those skills. But really, what really makes people fit or not fit is a lot of it's just their personality style, their presentation style, their general demeanor, because presumably people are going to be at least in the same ballpark. We're going to get lots of resumes, presumably, and we'll be able to tear out some of them and put them aside that just don't qualify. But the ones that we're going to look at, we're going to have some serious financial experience in their work. How they do that and how they work with people around them is critical to making that internal infrastructure work.
So one of the big problems that town manager is going to face right off the bat, what's the skill that they're going to need most? Lately, it's been, the relationships amongst all the boards and personnel. Said the finances are in good shape. I think that's true. So, what kind of a person are we looking for?
Long-term strategic thinker.
Mhm.
We have made great strides in planning. There's always more to do. The budget task force, I think, when they come on board,
Yeah.
work may be wrapped up, but they'd be picking that up where it's left off. Long term, look at board, towns and the board, horizon, especially large building projects. What we're gonna do with these capacities, municipal buildings. Retaining staff, making sure wages are competitive.
Mhm.
That's another piece. Everyone knows staffing. We're not alone in this area. I've been saying this. Staffing is an issue in municipalities right now. Getting people who have experience. So you're constantly trying to train someone at experience level and retain them.
First one here.
Of course. Manufacturing people business. That's
Yeah.
not a phrase I wish I could.
What about, how do you know dealing with the public? It seems like that's a big part of the town manager's job that maybe wasn't, you and I talked about this in your office, wasn't a part of the town manager's job 20 years ago because there was no Facebook constant. What are your thoughts about it?
always open or like, receive mostly emails from people. Now it's usually you don't really walk in, well, but it is. I think that's an important piece of dealing with the public. Interface, sometimes the town manager is the first person people meet where they go right to, or how their issues are going to be solved. So having good interaction, town manager can help direct the right resource. But we've utilized social media more to get push information out. But our IT administrative assistant has done more work on that. She's opened up where comments are received and she directs people where they need to go. So that's our website for his information.
What's the question we haven't asked you? You really think it should be?
That's a good one.
That thing that you're like, well, if they ask about it,
We'll tell 'em.
but yeah, I'll tell them, but we're not thinking to ask. It might be important. But if this sounds leading, it really isn't. This is just like,
The elephant in the room.
Yeah.
or the thing that you look at and go, "Oh, this is really important to me, but maybe it isn't to them or whatever. Just, there's wisdom in your brain that isn't on the table. And there's something there that you think is important and we don't even know what to ask you to get it there.
Whoever is going to be coming into this role is, may have to be dealing with a board that's divided. Having to, how they're going to handle that.
Yeah.
What their approach would be.
So when we're asking,
You have one member of the board directing you to do something, encouraging. Not the authority of the board till 7.
somebody that's got a strong relationship with wherever they're working. Probably somebody who's a town administrator now. Doesn't have to be, could it be somebody who's just more of a financial wizard wherever they're working?
Ideally, we'll want someone with experience, like administrator or town manager, but realistically, it's more limited than it used to be. So you may get people who do not have that experience or have limited experience, or assistant town administrators. Move up to that role. In that case, we want to know what they've been exposed to at that level. My previous, I was the town administrator at one point before I became a town administrator. And because it was such a small town, I was exposed to everything. Experience at every level, which was in the end very helpful. Bigger towns may have more limited exposure styles.
Yeah, I remember that from your interview or your resume. What I was impressed with is that you moved, the town that moved you up, throughout the time that you worked with the town. Obviously, there's a lot of respect for you and that you more and more as you went along. So. Anything else? I know. I
I
thought
work
they
with you
were
all the time. I
talkative.
don't have any
I
questions.
thought they were talkative. I've never heard Beard work this way.
so I'm working on a question in my head. I'm trying to find a good way
To say it.
to say it, to ask it. I'm curious, retrospectively, your approach, if you could articulate what I'm about to ask you, just in terms of your thinking behind your approach, but also how we might be able to formulate questions or really get an understanding of the approach of a candidate. So, I've been critical of you in the past when it comes to, in particular, you holding your cards quite close until the point that you're going to make a recommendation or present a proposal. And in my mind, the frustration in my mind is that not knowing what you're thinking makes deliberating and influencing your decision very difficult on the front end, and trying to change it on the back end is even harder. That's been my personal experience, is that your decision making has not been publicly deliberative, although it may have been privately deliberative. And again, it's just my
Give you a little insight into my personality, and that's
Sure, yeah.
why is I don't like to speak about something that I'm not haven't completely researched or looked into to make sure that I'm correct in what I'm saying. So to put something out there, I think sometimes could be misleading.
Mhm.
So that's, sorry, it's holding my cards close, but I look at it a little differently as far as I like to have everything vetted out first before presenting.
And that's the stylistic approach that I think the interview, that's what to echo back what I said earlier. That's what's important to get how their style is, because it's just a different style.
I agree.
And I hesitate to say what we should or shouldn't be looking for, because again, if I say, oh, we should look for something like this, I don't want to at all be critical of the current town manager, in those regards, because again, it's just a matter of style. So, one thing I could say is to the board comment about how to deal with a divided board, is every board member gets told by the town manager, once somebody's going to say, I am listening to your input, but the decision, according to the charter, is mine. That is an important thing to say to them privately. It's an important thing to say to people publicly. It's like, the decision is mine. I'm going to look for all the input from everybody, the board, other boards, and the community. But I want everybody to know that the decision is eventually mine. Not to, somehow you have to get that out of somebody without them wanting to be a steamroller. It's like, well, I don't care what anybody thinks. I run the town the way I run the town. And it's a very fine line, of course. Yeah.
And I think both of those get to just a good point for us to keep in mind going forward is you can have two people with the same style, but subtle differences in that style can have radically different end results, radically different impressions of those interacting with them. So I do think it's going to be worthwhile to dive into style, but I think that's a little more, I'm actually really not worried about this group having that level of nuance, but it is, as you allude to, a very nuanced question, because two people could seemingly play cards close to their chest for wildly different reasons, and even then, what looks like playing cards close to your chest or looks like very open, deliberative communication isn't necessarily either of those things in practicality. And that's going to be a challenge for us, I think, to tease out a little bit, but.
So taking that another step further, divided board. So I'm thinking that it would be important that the candidate come from a small town kind of environment where they're dealing with the select board of 3 or 5 versus a candidate who might come from Quincy or whatever.
I would not necessarily.
No, okay.
I mean, I would be open. Small town. I think you might be forced to be open to someone with less experience.
Based on how much we're
Hopefully not. But
I will say during our interim town manager interview,
Yeah.
it came to light just to illustrate the point.
Yeah.
He worked as an intern at a town much smaller than ours.
Yeah.
And it was disastrously delayed.
Yeah.
So, you know, Tip O'Neill, you know, this, all politics are local.
Yeah.
And they can get just as heated whether there's 12,000 people in the town or 5,000 or 25,000.
That, you know, I think that actually, Heather, I'd like your input on this. It somewhat impacts this, but I kind of want it in my back pocket for future thoughts as well. We're about, so next census, we're gonna lose our rural status. Like, that's pretty matter of fact, unless like half the town goes away somehow, we're gonna lose our rural status. Are we still a small town? And I don't mean politically, because of course in our hearts, we all view Lunenburg as this cute little town. And we want, and many of us want it to be that way. But we've doubled, right? Like quickly, we're bigger, we've moved differently. Do we, from your vantage point, do we govern and behave like a small town? I guess my follow-up on that would be, and is whatever we're doing correct for where we are, where we're going?
I don't think Lunenburg is a small town.
Okay.
I think we've grown both the population and the type of services that we need, that our residents are looking for. Things have become more complicated as well, and there's so many different projects and things going on in this town that I would not consider this small town type of government more. The town more as a mid-size.
So the next
Looking
town
at
manager is gonna have to take that step.
Right, especially staffing. I think our staffing levels are, there's no, so many of our staff are overworked at work. Some don't have sufficient staff, and some of that fluctuates with time and issues, but it's the same on the school side.
Yeah, I think the school is an interesting, it's not exactly the same for a number of reasons, not the least of which is that our census in our schools is actually smaller than it was 30 years ago.
Really?
Yeah, we had 1,800 kids in our schools when I graduated, and now we have 1,500. The difference is the advent of charter schools, the growth of the technology, the tech schools, those kinds of things, school choice to a certain degree. But all of those are draws on our budget. We pay for all of them in one fashion or another. But I think what has changed more than anything is the amount of regulation, reporting, and administrative overhead that comes along with it. I mean, it's probably, just be Kentucky windage, but I would say double would be my guess of what it was 30 years ago, just in terms of the administrative overhead of running effectively 3 schools. So 4 schools if you count the middle high school as 2. So it's weird in that regard, right? I don't think we're actually delivering more, but we're definitely spending more, you know?
Different types of services too that
Yeah.
are needed, social,
Yep.
emotional
Yep.
services.
Yeah, that too. That
Wasn't
too.
a component.
Well,
Mhm.
special ed, Chapter 766 has been around since like the mid-70s, right? So we've been delivering special ed forever. It's how you do it and how you use your collaboratives and what you're doing for outplacement, those kinds of things. But I would say the sophistication
I think
of special ed
I
and
think
the
cost.
cost,
Yeah,
yeah.
Final thoughts from you?
I want to appreciate the opportunity for asking me to come tonight. And then,
I think it's critical to hear from you, what your thoughts are.
appreciate that.
That that interview in front of people who will be able to help you place it.
You know that.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
That's why I wondered that they were coming, just to make sure.
It's not a
we were
warning,
used to
I
it.
meant that earnestly.
I know, but I wanted her to know that.
Right.
I wanted her to know that. Okay.
I want to see if she would blush. but she's a constant
My
professional.
freckles must be higher.
Okay, all right. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Evan.
Very good. Yeah, please, now you can interview them. All right, thank you all. So the next thing on our agenda is to interview Community Paradigm Associates. So come on up, guys.
Morning.
Fantastic. We'll introduce ourselves. Okay. Can everybody, keep your.
See you. Nice to meet you.
Tim Murphy.
Tim, see you. Spoke with a couple of you.
Yes, you spoke to Peter, you spoke to me.
Well, you're in a pub in
In Scotland.
Scotland.
Right.
Yeah.
I
The
thought he
music
was on the
wasn't-
golf course. He
Hopefully
was
the
on the
music
pub.
wasn't too,
No, I heard the music in the background.
I know.
Pretty good. Yeah.
You're very responsive on that.
Yeah, how's that? All right, so hopefully that reflects on the type of service that you would receive from us.
So, I think you may have heard sitting in the background that the select board did approve a budget. And obviously, I've hired anybody. We're in the process of sending out the solicitations, the 3 bids. And since you haven't gotten one, you know, we haven't sent them out yet,
Right.
which hopefully we'll do sometime early next week.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you were here when one of our citizens spoke, but that was kind of where I was going to start, to be perfectly blunt.
Sure.
You know, we've done okay hiring almost exclusively through MMA, just advertising through MMA. Now I did tell you that we had Bennett Yager, yeah. But basically Kerry came through the MMA advertising. Every week as well. So just to allow you to give us your pitch. Sure. But you know, what is it that we potentially need? What do we potentially get from hiring a recruiting firm to assist us?
Sure. Well, you know, and I see us being here tonight is, thank you for having us. And
Yes.
we're certainly happy to be here tonight to speak with you about the process and tell you a little bit about Community Paradigm. And I'll speak in general terms about what I think is useful about having a consultant, whether it's us or somebody else. I think that and then I'll talk a little bit about Community Paradigm and how we fit into all of that. I think the value of having a consultant, John, certainly jump in if I miss anything here, is that, let me start with this, that it's a far different environment today than it was 7.5 years ago. 7.5 years before that. Kerry, over the last 4 or 5 years, I think it's probably about 75 or 80% of the administrators and managers in the state have turned over. It has been a remarkable transformation of the municipal workforce. Most of it's been retirement that's taken place. It's baby boomers have all been. In fact, at this point, I'd probably guess and say that all the baby boomers are gone from the. We're now talking to people who are the next sort of cohort that are in the process of retirement. So, you know, what that means is you don't have the group of candidates out there that you've had in the past that are ready to make that move. Many of the communities around you, in fact, have only recently hired people. We've done a number. We've done it over the past roughly, well, since 2016 was when we did our first search. We've done 110 searches during the Commonwealth.
Since when?
2016. So 8 years, you know, and I have a packet of materials here that I've given you. I'm going to give you all of the past 5 years, everything we've done. But I've actually decided I'd throw on an addendum to that, give you everything we've done. And some of them we've done twice. Some communities have brought us back a second time to help them fill some. What all of that means is you don't necessarily have the people out there that sort of working their way through their career. They've already made their move. They're already out there. They're already in position. I don't know what fields of candidates you had last time, how many people applied. But I will tell you that you know, we look at fields of candidates now that are 15 to 30 candidates that might apply for a position like this. You know, whereas years ago, you were probably looking at 30 to 50 that might be applying for these positions. You just don't see that.
We didn't see that then.
Okay. And you may not, because you're not very
Well, we
frankly,
saw 30.
It was
We saw
about
30.
15 to 30, the first range.
Okay. You're in an area too, of geographic that
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily have a lot of candidates around you that are ready to certainly make that move. So that's changed there. We're seeing that in many communities. I mean, we've done every size community you can imagine. We've done as small as 1,800, and I think our largest was the town of Brookline of 7,000 managers. So geography plays a big role in how that all comes together. The marketplace, you know, we have just economically, we have a very low unemployment in just across the board in all sectors. In the municipal sector, it is a real challenge getting people to do it. There's a task force that the Lieutenant Governor had back in the Baker administration that I had the opportunity to sit on, to look at this issue of the municipal workforce. And this is what we talked about. How do we get more people to come into municipal government? And it's a challenge in probably finance more than anything else, but certainly management. So what a consultant can do is, one, we can help market you to pools out there. We know who's out there. We said that about Heather, but we know who Heather is. We know who all of the managers in the state are. Our backgrounds in municipal government. I was a manager for a total of about 30 years. John, probably 35 years. So, you know, of course, a lot of the managers we do have all retired. But because we've done so many searches, we keep on coming across new people that are out there. We keep our finger in what's happening, our hand in what's happening in the municipal world. So we know the candidates that are out there, and people reach out to us on a regular basis. How do I get into it? So we know that. We also, one of the great feeders right now in the municipal manager world is the MMA Suffolk University Local Government Certificate Program. This was started probably back 13 years ago to sort of create the new generation of managers, because this was seen at the time. I remember back in 2011, there was an article in the National City Association newsletter referencing the silver tsunami. And so here in the state, MMA Managers Association worked with Suffolk University to create this program that is helping train the next generation. I was the coordinator of that program from 2015 to 2018, maybe. John is now the coordinator. That gives us an opportunity to see who's out there. Run two programs a year. This year, we'll be running one out in Pittsfield, one in Sharon. We run through about 50, so we run 25, roughly 25 people through that program, each one, so about 50 people. Count that up over that period of time. We're seeing all of these people that are out there that want to become municipal managers or assistant managers.
So these generally people that are outside of municipal.
They
government?
have to be municipal.
They have to.
They have
They
to
have to
be.
be, they have to
They're
be an
looking to move
employee
up.
of municipal government to join the program, and they're looking to move up, basically.
So we do see those. We also see the people in the private sector that are looking to make the transition. I will say that, and I think Heather spoke to this, it can be done. That you can take someone from the private sector and move them into the municipal. But if you're looking for someone with experience, you want someone that's touched the various elements of municipal government. Understand procurement, that understand interacting with the public, that understands municipal finance. You have a relatively new finance director, from what we understand. You need someone here that understands that, the way that all of that works. So I think it would be useful to have someone coming out of it. Said that, it can be a challenge finding people. So we know the market, we know the candidates, we know how local government works because we've done it ourselves. We also, the other value I think of a consultant is that people are going to have questions. Frankly, Heather's in the room, but Heather deciding to leave is going to raise questions.
Oh, yeah.
Why is it happening? They're not going to call, the candidate isn't going to call any of you or any member of the board. They might call one of your department heads and say, what happened? Why is that happening? They will call a consultant. Again, the fact that we know all of the managers that are out there and all the assistant managers and many of the department heads and the like that might be interested in this position, they're going to call us up and say, thinking about Lunenburg, give me a lay of the land. This is what I've heard. And we can explain that to them. And we can explain what the issues are facing the town, what the town's looking for next town manager. That's something that a consultant can help. The other part of it is I think that's important is that we sort of help manage the process from there. Start to finish. We get, I didn't bring a copy of it, but if you look at our website, paradigm.com, you will see the position statements that we generate. It's marketing material. You can see one right now for the town of Tewksbury that we're doing work with, the town of Dayton that we're doing work with. The value of that is we help you market the position from the standpoint of having done 110 of those, plus any of the department head type positions we've also done searches for. We take all the resumes in, we respond back to let them know that their resume is on file. We help you go through the resumes. You will see all the resumes. We do not. Some consultants come up with an idea that they're going to just present you. Some towns have asked us to do this, but some consultants may just give you those that they feel should be brought forward. We're going to give you everything. And then we'll tell you the story about each one of those candidates. We'll tell you what we know about what's their experiences in their other communities, and what their strengths and weaknesses might be. And then we will work with you on development of questions, schedule the interviews, develop with you the evaluative criteria, evaluative approaches that you can use. In terms of, I heard some discussion regarding department heads and presentations. We've done all of those. We've done a variety of different techniques, and we've been working on sort of coming up with a strategy of what makes the most sense. I would think that most of that would probably happen more at the select board level than screening level. But, you know, we've done department head meet and greets, the department head, done citizen meet and greets, citizen forums. We have different ideas that we might want to talk to you about that as we go through it. That's us. If you go with another firm, we've done that. We've also used different tools to help evaluate candidates. Again, oftentimes it's like we won't necessarily give them. We've done it. We've given them a topic and said, "Give us a presentation." Oftentimes, what we do is, particularly given the market, you know, it's very much a seller's market right now. You want to get people in the door, and many candidates, if given an assignment right off the bat, will say, "Look, I've got a job to do. I'll do that." I'm not going to necessarily apply for this. But what we've done is we've used a approach in some communities. Okay, we want you to present to us on something you've done. You don't have to do any more work. We just want you to show us what you've done. What's your work product look like? We want you to explain to us how you got to that point. So we can see your presentation skills, we can understand your thought process, decision-making process, and then we want you to also talk to us about what you learned as a result of all of this. That tells us something about their level of self-awareness. How much do they learn as they go? So that's, and then we sort of guide the select board through the process as well, again, setting up that. We also, the other part of it too that we do is we do, let's see, our approach. We do reference. You know, we're gonna flag for you right up front anyone who has problems based on what we know. But we think it's important to also talk to the references of these people that work with these people, and we delve into it. Two people that we use that are on our team are former reporters who know how to interview people and get people to say things that they might not necessarily want to say, the way that they ask questions. From all of that, we generate a report, which we give not to the screening committee, this gets given to the board. And it certainly gets into, you know, their work habits, but it also lists out the types of projects that they've worked on. And that's valuable information that the board can use to delve into the experiences that these people, these candidates have, finalists have. You can only really do that with the finalists. That's why I say the board. But I note that because you're probably going to interview these people for about an hour, 60 to 75 minutes. We will spend probably 30 to 60 minutes with each one of their references. So we'll be spending probably 3 to 4 hours talking to people who know these people. And we think that that's valuable. That's part of what we do. I don't know, you know, other firms do it differently. They do only a reference check with the last person who's standing, who gets hired.
After you.
After you've already chosen the person.
We do it.
Oh, yeah.
We do it prior to, and we think the information that we get is helpful.
So we do all the finalists.
Yeah. Anyway, that's sort of what we do.
2 points to add to what you're saying to get to your question.
Yeah.
One is, I call us ombudsman, you know, so we're working for the community, but we're also working with candidates. I just had a situation which has happened several times where I actually had one of the finalists send me an email saying, I'm withdrawing from this process. And so, you know, so I talked to that person, got down to the bottom of it. We had a long conversation. That person stayed and was eventually chosen. So that's happened to us a couple of times. So we work with the candidates all through the process, whereas when you're doing it, you know, through the town, they don't have anybody, you know, directly to speak to, you know, to work through. We're all anxious, you know, as candidates to understand that process. We provide that in between. I had in one of my classes, I had an HR director very recently from the Cape, one of described it very well. He says today, there are trappers and there are hunters in the personnel world. A trapper will basically put the ad in the MMA and let people come to them. A hunter is going to go out and seek the candidates. That's what we can provide. So I think that's the big difference is, we send out, so when we do our position profile, we advertise it in the MMA. That's the #1 spot. But not everybody's looking at the MMA on, a regular basis to see what the jobs are. Because sometimes the person you want is the person who doesn't quite know they want the position yet. And so what we do is we have the emails of all the town administrators, assistant town administrators for the most part. We get that out, to everybody in a separate email.
As well as other people that are in our database that have been applicants or expressed interest.
So we'll get it out to 400, 500, 600 people, directly, not just in the MMA. And then Bernie and I sit, we talk, and we're doing this in a community now. We get that map out. We're looking and saying, okay, who are, people in the area? And because we're both involved, especially in a community like this, we're involved in that Suffolk program. We have a list of another 500 people who participated in that. We go to that and we're actually seeking out. So it's not just, we're not trapping. We're hunting, in this scenario, to look for people. So that's our experience. We've both been involved for a long time. I've been 35 years as a manager. I started in 1986 in Pepperell. I was in Harvard for 13 years, so I was there for the whole Devens, from the closure to the whole redo. And then I went on and, I was a town manager in Ashland and retired out of Bronxville. I was an assistant superintendent of schools for the city of Marlboro for several years too in between. So I was president of the MMA, president of the Managers Association. So our contacts, I was at the managers meeting, 2 weeks ago, talking to people and, because I've got one job I'm doing right now, we talk to people. So, and people know us because of our long time, involvement. I remember Joe Bolano, as a selectman from, I've been going, 20 years now, but, I remember Joe when he was a selectman because I was, in Harvard and, we were in the same area and I talked to him, at the MMA and everything. So, so we have the connections. I live in Bolton, so, I'm just 2 towns over. So I'm in this area. I'm missing comments this year. It's killing me, I'm sure you all. So know the area in that sense, but that's what we'll go out and do. So we've done, I've been personally involved in the towns in this area. I just finished Bolton a couple of months ago. And we had 4 finalists there. 3 were town administrators, or our town administrators. 1 was an assistant town administrator. Just did Hopkinton, same thing. 3 were graduates of the Suffolk program, in the Hopkinton. So these are folks who we know, we deal with, at various levels in the program. So again, we're going to see. So I think one of the things you want to be able to say is that you didn't leave anybody on the table. When you're looking for your next candidate, you don't want to have someone that you maybe did not have the opportunity to recruit, to talk to. Putting an ad in the MMA is being, basically the trapping, technique. And that's something that worked, as Bernie was saying earlier one time, but now you got to be a little more aggressive.
Yeah, I think it's the environment,
Yes.
the economic environment, the generational environment,
The political environment.
political environment. But the other part of it is that, years ago, when the MMA used to be a hard copy that went out, then, it'd come across your desk. You sit, you'd flip and you say, okay, oh, wow, this town, nope, it's not far away. Now, they issue the beacon online, but you have to make a decision to go look at it.
Right. Remember the movie The Jerk with Steve Martin? The phone book is here, phone book is here.
Yeah.
That's what it used to be.
Yeah, now, and so we pretty much just use the web. We don't do the beacon. We just do put up on the MMA job board. People that are out looking for jobs, we'll see it there. But then, as Joan said, we hunt the people down. That's it. I've got a copy of our firm profile. I've got a listing of our communities that we've done over the last 5 years. Oh, sure. And then I supplemented the list of the 5 years. That's pretty standard. People are often looking for that sort of background. I've added on the recruitments done between 2016 and 2019. And then again, a number of these have been come to us and said.
And also, I think we've done most of the work here in
Central
you know,
Mass.
in Central Mass, you know, that have used consulting firms to do searches.
And then there's a timeline, and I didn't know where you were in terms of start, so I just used a date of August 19th. But if you're looking at you know, an RFP coming out, RFQ, you know, that would change probably by a week or two. Everything.
You guys on a state contract?
No,
Nobody is.
No,
There is
it's-
no state contract for this service.
You guys got questions?
We had touched upon this while we were on the phone, but I'll ask it again. Anyway, for
Sure.
the benefit of
I didn't
everyone
hear you open music. So.
Fair enough. Obviously, this is a very a small community of candidates. If you're looking specifically for somebody with municipal experience in Massachusetts, and my question is are both of those criteria compulsory? Is municipal experience and is Massachusetts compulsory?
I would say no to the Massachusetts. There have been with a caveat that it depends on the other states that they work in. Are
And
they
their
sta-
attitude.
you know, are they familiar with
Their
are
understanding.
they familiar with the notion of town meeting?
Mhm.
Are they familiar with collective bargaining? There are states out there that don't have collective bargaining and don't, obviously, many states, most don't have town meeting. So, that, you know, there are managers that come to the state that have been successful, that weren't familiar with town meeting, that didn't have town meeting, but have become successful, were successful. So it's not compulsory, but I think that's helpful to have that. The non-municipal, I think it's, again, there are some examples of people that have done that. What I think is helpful is if they've got an understanding of municipal government by having served as a member of a finance, maybe as a board member of the board of selectmen. That's always a challenge, though, because it's good that they have the understanding of how that government works, but you don't necessarily want someone who sees the operation of the town through a political lens. You also sometimes can have a challenge asking people to explain their experience if they rely solely on their experience as a member of the board. There's always a question of, were you a member of the board that took a vote on something, or were you actually involved because you've got a manager there that's actually doing that job? So you have to flesh that out a lot. There are examples that it's worked. The other challenge that you'll have with getting someone out of state is the pension system. Because depending upon where they're coming from, where they are in their career, the pension system is a great system. Start at the beginning and work your way through. But if you spend most of your career outside of Massachusetts paying into Social Security, and then you jump into Massachusetts to the pension system, you're suddenly going to see your contribution for retirement purposes going from 6.25% in Social Security being 11%, and you're not going to get Social Security credits, and that scares people off. They say, "Look, I'm not going to go to Massachusetts at this point in my career."
So we have those conversations. We've kind of talked, you know, a couple of years ago, we had a lot of out-of-state people, you know, contacting us. Lately, it's kind of toned down. We're not seeing it as much. But, you know, in Bolton, we did have, one of the finalists was a town administrator of New Hampshire. New Hampshire has town meetings, it's different, but the thing is having the concept of citizen government. You know, citizen government in New England is quite different from citizen government the rest of the country. You know, so, you know, having to go before, you know, I always said, every time I wanted a fire truck, I'm gonna go before 10 committees. You know, I gotta sell it to a, you know, finance committee, a subcommittee of the finance committee, capital committee. You know, you sell it all over the place before you actually get the town meeting. People need to understand that concept. People need to understand that you don't make decisions in a vacuum, you know, for the most part, you know, on policy decisions. That in this form of government, you need to, you know, go through a lot of extra steps. So if they can understand that, then it could be success. There's been some very successful people, you know, managers who have come from out of state. But we try to work through, you know, those pieces when we have them. Again, you know, the person out of New Hampshire, I think, you know, was a very good person. It did very well in the interview and got consideration, you know, but they also had, you know, somebody else that they, you know, they liked more, an assistant manager in the area. And they hired the Harvard assistant town administrator. But this person, you know, would have done a very nice job.
Well, I know prior to the current, prior to serving for a time, we didn't hire directly for that person.
Right.
It's the time, that's how it is.
Yes.
So, now, so we have had experience of people who have served some considerable time, wasn't attributable.
Yeah, even more, she served in Arizona.
Right,
Yes.
right, as Arizona as
It's
well.
crazy.
Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
forgotten that. I'd forgotten
I don't remember the Arizona. And then you've had people who've been here and gone to other states, you know, go back to Jane Mahoney, you know, that's going back a ways, but she ended up in Ohio, and then she was in Newport, Rhode Island, about a dozen years ago as town city manager in Newport. But, you know, so you had different pieces, but again, that's what we try to work through, you know, with you, is those discussions on these things. We're very open. One of the things is, we're not gonna tell you straight out, you know, no on these things. But what we can do is talk through with the screening committee and with the board, you know, what are we seeing, you know, with each situation, and bring that to the table.
So I think you told both myself and Peter that you're looking at a 12, 14-week process. And you just referred to that in your chart. Can things be done to quicken the process? Not that I want to cut corners per se,
Sure.
but my concern in having talked with Heather about this before, you know, she came onto the job in January is when she started in May. And she said, you know, not enough had been done to get the budget to the point where we would be able to work it well. And we're looking now at a point where we're going to be bringing somebody in January. If you start planning out 4 weeks, 16 weeks, we still got to wait 2 weeks before we can even think about hiring somebody. Recruitment firm, rather. So what can be done to?
Well, there's a few, you know, there's a few things we've done it faster in some places. And we can, as soon as we can get in, the faster we can go. The quicker. You know, even what I've provided you here, I think has it done at the beginning of December. And so you really
Then
talk.
somebody's got to give a month's notice.
Exactly. So, exactly. So then they're into January. And so, you know, there's ways you can kind of try to speed this up. You know, I'm not sure where Julie will be on getting this out.
She's on vacation this week.
She's on
so-
vacation this week.
so-
So it gets out next week. You know, I think 6. You know, you could probably get in. Maybe you could still, you could almost potentially, you could still almost start. It's going to require a vote of the board to make this award, I believe.
Got authority to spend the money, so.
Okay, so you get to make that decision.
Okay,
Do we know,
Yeah.
are we gonna, is select board gonna have to approve the contract? They're the only ones, we don't have authority to approve the contract.
So anyway, you could try to get that out, and we could try to get it out on the street by the middle of September. It just really means letting us, if it were us,
Yeah.
letting us go. You know, what we do is, again, we think it's important do this position statement. You have to do it, well, you talk.
Just so the group knows, I sent him the one that Chris had come up with, and I sent it to Bernie. I think.
That's not a
saying-
position statement, that was a,
No,
Yeah.
that was a job
The job-
responsibility list.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't think Bernie was impressed with it. He tried to say it politely.
well, it was impressive, but it wasn't quite the format that we would do. It was somewhere between an ad and a position statement.
But I will say, Peter had suggested that we get something out that would refer back to something that we would have on the website. You did mention that. would be
What we do is,
part of it.
right, what we do is, so, you know, do I have, is one of your members online? here?
No. All right.
No, he's,
Well, I was gonna show you what about position statement, it's a very short round. You want to see? Pull that up. Okay. It's been 7.5 years since you've had a manager, since you hired a manager. And Lunenburg is different now than it was then. The issues are different, the organization's different. We think it's a good opportunity for you as a community, department heads, the community, to think about the board, think about what do we have, what are our needs now that may not have been the case back 7 years ago. This is just, you know, you can kind of flip through that.
That's true, great.
Yeah. So we spend the time pulling information together about the town. We talk to department heads. We'll talk to each one of the board members. Obviously, we'll talk to the committee. And we will generate roughly a 4-page document that looks like that. It's a good promotional piece, makes the town search look very professional. You probably had something similar with Dick Bennett. And we think that's a process worth doing. Then if we could hit the streets with this in roughly second week or third week of September, then we could have the resumes back in 3.5 or so weeks. Then you could, you know, then we could start to go through those and get you in by, you know, get these candidates before you sometime in, you know, third week of October, something like that. You go through your process, then we do the reference work. We get to the board sometime in late November. You're getting online with more schedule I've provided here. It's a little bit faster, and then you can hopefully have someone
work
else
together.
get it.
The good part is you're together already, and the hardest part we have is getting screening committees to give us dates,
Right.
you know, on everything, so we could work that up early, you know, and get our dates and, you know, have everything ready in advance. Because sometimes we wait 2, 3, 4 weeks to get, you know, availability from all the screening committee members. So I think we can work it out, but again, I don't want to, you know, make sure, you know, we don't want to tell you something that's just not going to happen.
Yeah,
You know, you're in a tight timeline to make it for January. You've got, you know, at least you got your interim. We've known Carter for years, and he was in Foxborough as the interim when we did that one 2 years ago. And so we've worked with him, you know, on these things, you know, in between. So we're familiar with, you know, Carter. We'll work with him and Julie. And
yeah, and I don't know if you had, I don't know, back when Kerry left, before you brought it, I don't know whether there was an interim.
Yes,
it was.
yeah,
And we had a very experienced.
for like
financial-
5 months or 4 months.
And our financial director was very experienced at the
Yes.
time. So we were in great
Yeah,
shape,
yeah.
you know,
yeah,
so I mean, we felt good about that. Now, the financial director now is much newer, you know, so the idea of getting somebody on board that's gonna be able to work on the budget, the sooner the better off. So I think that's a big part of it.
So the short answer of the moderator's question is
There is
not
no short-
really. No, there's no short answer.
There
I
is no
realize
short
that
answer.
already.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, the short answer is not.
there's no shorter timeline. The timeline is. the
Yeah,
time.
I don't see it. I mean,
Right, okay.
A little bit here, a
We've
little
done
bit
it,
there. not much.
yeah.
I'm gonna boil down to very
Yeah.
simple sentences.
Yeah, and I'm used to.
So,
So, yeah, I can't see it really.
You notice I wait my time to get something in, so.
You want it done.
I agree. Am I, as I look through your packet here, there are only two that you weren't able to finish and for the reasons you gave, right?
Right.
Fairhaven and East Long Meadow.
Yeah.
Okay. And every time I think I know all 351, I have no idea where the hell Dayton is. Where in the world is Dayton?
Dayton is down next to Berkeley.
Yeah.
Does that help? Dayton is down in southeastern Massachusetts.
Southeast.
We're actually doing.
Usually when I don't know, it's
If
the
you're going
south.
to Fall River,
Right.
you're gonna be
Okay.
passing
It's
through
fine.
that.
We're actually doing that one right now.
Yeah, no, it's
We did it before. Oh yeah, it shows up here. And we did it before back in 2020. Yeah,
21.
2021. Yeah, and most of these they don't. Some of these they're double up.
Matthew, Peter, questions, Tom?
I'm good.
No, I mean, I think the
Super
reason,
informative
the
and
reason to do it, he hit all of them. I would disagree with only one. I think that I do agree that people who have questions about the job would not call us. But if you're working for us, I would say why, unless they know you from another involvement with you, why they, since we're hiring you, you're working as our kind of firm, kind of like a fiduciary.
Why would they-
Why would they call you? Why would they expect a straight answer from you?
Because
We've already made a contact with them.
That's what I'm saying. So if they had
Yeah.
prior
Yeah.
involvement.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, even if someone's brand new,
Right.
that we don't know, and they're being considered in, so let's say you're choosing them, we're having the contact with them. So we're having conversations with them, and we're having a conversation to make sure they're ready, to understand the position.
And even beyond that, I understand what you're saying, but you would be amazed at the number of people that will call us up.
Yes.
And they don't know us whole, but they will call us up and ask us about a job because we're seen as more of a, in their minds, as a neutral who will
Right.
tell them the truth.
Oh, no, before they apply, I would imagine that would be absolutely true. I'm
Yeah.
saying if somebody has applied and then they get to a point and they'd be like, okay.
Now,
Oh, and
once,
then-
once they see our name on a position statement, because we'll
Yeah.
say call,
Yeah.
with our cell phone number in there, we get these calls from people we don't know.
But then after
They
they,
introduce themselves and we have these
but
discussions.
you're saying after they've
Right.
applied,
Right.
they will still deal with us. And as John said, and when he was telling these stories, telling the story about the community just recently, it's happened a few times.
Yes.
But more recently, the kid is ready to go, ready to pull up. They said, look, I'm getting cold feet. I'm not gonna-" And John worked them over and convinced them to stay in.
Just had a conversation. It's, it's,
No, I hear
okay, so what do you, why? Let's
Because
talk
the-
this through.
The big thing you have to remember too is that these are all public hirings.
Yeah.
So if they put their name up there, usually it's before, those conversations happen right before.
Selection committee goes public. Right.
And then they say, I'm not getting a good feeling.
I agree, and I guess I'll narrow down my comment. And again, I think the reasons for going with a company, a firm like this, is very well stated by both of you. I guess when you said earlier, well, our town manager is leaving, people are gonna wanna know why.
Right.
So I would be like, well, why would they believe, if you're working for the town, why would they believe your answer any more than they would believe anybody's answer?
Yeah.
Because they'll be like, you're working for the
I'll
town.
put your email in there. I'll forward this to you and you can get it to the rest of the meeting. Because I don't have all the details.
Okay, so we already established that Bernie could talk for a long time. So.
Oh, you have no idea.
And you haven't even started with me
I
yet.
know, they have another meeting that, new members just showed up at the second meeting of this evening at 7:30, so
Okay.
it has to, does it have to be on Zoom? Or it doesn't have
It
to?
will be.
It will be, anyway, all right, so there's another meeting coming up, so I.
Which is why this gentleman has joined us, since he's part of the capital planning.
Capital
committee.
planning.
But listen,
They are the capital
It's the
planning
same
committee.
group,
Same
except for-
crew.
I thought you were just late for the meeting.
I was happy to see a friendly face for it finally, so.
At any rate, so I.
Wow, so you really doesn't know you very well. He called you a friendly face.
Friendly face. I want to thank you very much.
Certainly.
So I think you already know that we have that out to the procurement
Yep.
process, and we still got a couple weeks to go on that, so we're not gonna be back in touch for a couple weeks.
Okay.
I do appreciate your time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We have any
He had
other-
a distance to come, so.
Yeah, I-
From.
Oh, I thought
up
thank you
there,
for
you
it.
know, So you're thinking, well,
But I was
kind
happy
of down the street, so.
I was happy to see that I drove by a Kimball on the way up. so I made
Yeah.
sure-
Yeah.
Where'd you come? I mean, you passed one in
I
Lancaster?
went, yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Where are you going?
I'm in Plymouth.
Oh, wow. Holy
One
cow.
17.
Yeah, let's do it.
125 to
The
117.
weather looks nasty, so.
That's
I've been hearing it.
Starting
Whoa.
That's what I'm thinking.
raining,
Thank
they came in. It's
All right.
started
you
raining.
very much.
All right, thank you. All right, if you have any
You have a
questions.
business, you have a business card? I didn't catch your name.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Okay, so before we,
Thank you.
Very much.
Much appreciated.
Okay, certainly.
Drive safely, gentlemen.
Certainly.
okay, so,
Hope you don't hit too much traffic.
Yeah.
potholes and
Get
rain.
through Lancaster could be tough.
Ah, well,
sometimes.
you know, yeah,
So,
especially if you're stopping at Kimball's, that's traffic
Yeah,
already.
exactly.
yes, nobody there tonight, rain. So what we need to do is make sure we have the next meeting. We had tentatively, I don't think Tom was here, but we had talked about the 19th August for our next meeting, which is probably going to be about what we need to do, I think, because Julie's not going to get this out until early next week. And then there's a 2-week process or so, so, you know, we're not even gonna be ready by the 19th. So the next meeting was scheduled for the 19th. We have 2 things that we want to accomplish. One, we want to get the procurement thing done, which maybe longer than 2 weeks. And we also wanted to invite the department heads to submit their ideas of what they're looking for. So want to meet on the 19th? Is that okay? Do you
So-
want to push it out a couple days and see if we can get the procurement thing done?
19th looks
The
great. for
19th,
me.
there is no planning board or school committee meeting.
Yeah,
I went and did that homework.
yeah, I saw that. Thank you.
But we won't have all the procurement business done by then. So, I mean, we could,
Well, it could be a quick meeting.
okay, so why don't we do the department heads and we'll invite them to come and or submit their thoughts, okay? All right, that'll be good for the 19th. And then can we have a meeting the next week? Because by then we should have the procurement stuff and we should be ready to make a decision if we're gonna hire somebody. I don't want to presume we're gonna hire somebody, but certainly see if there's some meaning.
Well, eventually we're gonna have.
No, I mean.
So currently,
what do you got for the department?
currently the 21st, Wednesday, the 21st, and August, and Wednesday, the 28th do not have conflicts. However, if I were a betting man, I would probably wager that there will be a school committee meeting on the 28th.
What about Monday, the 26th? What about early before the selectmen's meeting on the 27th?
The 26th, I
As
believe, will be a planning board
at
meeting.
6 PM.
I would be happy to meet before the select board meeting.
It's an automatic deadline for me, so that's fine with me.
So we just meet at 6 o'clock, and at that point in time, we'll have
What day is this? The
on the 27th.
On the 27th, we won't have a meeting
Oh,
You will,
because it's the last Tuesday.
oh.
Okay.
Well, then
so
we could
even better.
meet that.
We don't meet anymore.
No, we don't have a quorum. Okay.
So August 27th, which is a Tuesday.
Tuesday, yep. And
So
you
that
wanna
can
meet
be as whenever, it can be whenever.
6 or 7, what do you care? What do you want?
I have to, I came right here. from
Yeah,
work.
7 is better.
Yeah.
7.
6:30 is.
7 p.m. is fine.
6 is,
7
6:30 is kind of early.
And on the 27th, I hope what the agenda will be is that we'll be reviewing whatever we've got and we'll be ready to make a decision. And then I guess, what did Heather say? 'Cause she's so soft spoken. Who signs the contract?
It says it's a procurement thing, so the procurement officer will sign it.
And who's the procurement officer?
Julie.
Oh, she is, okay. Okay, and so if we vote that we wanted to, for example, hire community here, Bernie, then we would just alert Julie and then she could go out and execute the contract, is that what happens?
We don't get to vote. It's not like, that's the whole thing about procurement. You
What?
don't get to vote. Either you
Oh.
accept the lowest bidder or you don't accept anything.
What?
Right, you can reject them all, but you can't select the one you want if they're not the lowest bidder. You can't say, unless there's good reason, like, oh my God, they're involved in a huge fraud case. You could say,
So this is different than the process by which the planning board chose the contractor. Okay, got it.
So,
Okay, RFP has to be,
so on the
Big.
27th, we don't have to take a vote or do
Fine.
anything.
but okay,
We just know what Julie
Yeah.
thinks.
well, we're gonna,
Know what-
all we have to do is say, well, we'll be notified who the lowest bidder is.
Right,
And we can either say to accept it, or we
Okay.
can make them, we can move or recommend that we don't accept any of them.
yeah, okay. So that's
Yeah,
what we'll have to do.
right.
on the
But
27th.
you don't get to select, that's why there's no vote.
our meeting on
Boy, I'm
the
not in municipal.
19th is at what time?
It was originally set for 6 o'clock, but I don't mind doing it at 7.
Well, again, 6:30 is better for me.
6:30.
Any-
I'm all right with 6:30. Yeah.
6:30 on the 19th.
And forwarding this position statement, you want to go to your AOL account or
No,
your
send
account?
it. I'm watching my account
Okay.
now. I can't. If I need to go up. All right, meeting concluded at 7:29 and your meeting
Yeah.
can start at
You know how to
7:30.
stick a landing. All right. We'll to adjourn.
We have.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, great.
Aye.
Night, everybody.
Okay, so all four of you, I sent the position statement to. Did you want to get a copy of that, Heather?